So as a representative of CSL White Rock, I recognize that I am an uninvited settler on this land. I am grateful and honored to be on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. CSL White Rock is committed to the vision of a loving, vibrant world that works for everyone. We are committed to uplifting Indigenous voices, respecting traditional lands, and working with communities toward reconciliation. I thank all the First Peoples who continue to care for Mother Earth. And I'll just continue with an opening prayer. Know with me that there is only one thing happening right here, right now, and that is Spirit present in and through everything and everyone. As I breathe and I acknowledge all the beauty, love, harmony, light, and peace that is here within me and all of you here in this room and on Zoom, I know that everything is unfolding perfectly in unison and in harmony with Spirit's divine wisdom. I am so grateful for all the beautiful people that are present here today and on Zoom, knowing that the passion, the fire that is within us is part of my and everyone else's spiritual practice. And so with gratitude on my heart, knowing that Spirit always got my back, I trust and release into the creative law that always says yes. And together we say, and so it is. So I should have mentioned that I am the only practitioner here today. So wearing many hats along with the other volunteers, I would like to now welcome back the wonderful Nathen Aswell, who's going to play music and put us into that juicy spirit.
Oh, no pressure. Well, I brought the band today, so that'll make it easier. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the drummer today, Mr. Apple Loops. The difference between a drummer and a drum machine, you only have to punch the information into a drum machine once. All of my drummer friends hate that joke. This is a song by Harold Payne called Something Wonderful. I hope you sing along. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Same thing. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my soul, I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go. Once again, I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my soul, I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my soul, I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. And all this love inside, I can let it shine. Whoa. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Something wonderful.
was the spiritual director here for many years, and now comes back to speak to us, and on very short notice this week, but on a regular basis. So as past spiritual director of CSL White Rock, Terry is very familiar to many of us. He's a brilliant teacher and speaker, and has trained a legacy of practitioners, including 5 in this center, and ministers in the science of mind philosophy. And in retirement, he continues to mentor ministers, he counsels clients, and officiates funerals. So it's my pleasure to introduce Reverend Terry Shea.
Thank you. Thank you. I am turned on. I'm always turned on when I go in here. I just need more space, however. I'm going to move that and that. Here's the wonderful thing about getting called up at last minute. You get to say whatever you want. I'm really always grateful to be here. When I was 60, I remember reading something that really moved me. It said, how did they say it? When I was 60, I always thought to myself, don't say that. You never really know how it's going to land. Now that I'm 75, I say, oh shit, say it and see what happens. It's much more exciting that way. So I want to open with a poem from, it's not a poem as much as a prayer, a blessing. It is from John O'Donohue. May the gift of leadership awaken in you as a vocation. Keep you mindful of the providence that calls you to serve. As high over the mountains the eagle spreads its wings, may your perspective be larger than the view from the foothills. When the way is flat and dull in times of gray endeavor, may your imagination continue to evoke horizons. When thirst burns in times of drought, may you be blessed to find the wells. Very dear to Irish people, wells. May you have the wisdom to read time clearly and know when the need for change will flourish. In your heart, may there be a sanctuary for the stillness where clarity is born. May your work be infused with passion and creativity, and have the wisdom to balance compassion, and challenge. May your soul find the graciousness to rise above the fester of small mediocrities. May your power never become a shell, wherein your heart would be silent in atrophy. May you welcome your own vulnerability as the ground where healing and truth join. May integrity of soul be your first ideal, the source that will guide and bless your work. Now this seems like perhaps an odd topic to bring to people who don't probably see themselves in leadership. Perhaps a small form of leadership, perhaps in your family, perhaps in some work you're engaged in. As I look out at the group, I see not too many people in the workforce. And so, but I know that you are still at work. But more important, I know that you still have work to do. And I'm saying that again. I know that you still have work to do. I am rereading a book that I read when I was 18. I'm amazed how much I didn't know when I read this. The book is called The Waters of Siloé. It was written by Thomas Merton. And it was the book that propelled me at 20 to enter the Trappist monastery. And so in a very real way, I'm revisiting those thoughts that drove me to the monastery at that age 56 years ago. I asked Tamara to prepare a slide for me, and I want, if you could do that, Tamara. I'm sure she hasn't passed. There we go. In speaking about this monastic ideal, this monastic life that I embraced, Thomas Merton says, "It was a love that pierced the darkness of every tribulation, every contradiction, and recognized the wise action of a God of love behind the superficial evil of secondary causes." Now, if you're a religious scientist, and certainly if you're a practitioner and if you've studied, you know about first cause and secondary cause and causation generally. I got myself into a little bit of hot water at Unity 2 weeks ago when I was there with Nathen. Somebody came up to me after the service and said, "That was a very brave talk." And I was a little bit taken aback because I thought, really? What was brave about it? It was because I had waded into the question of good and evil. And I said quite categorically, if you're a New Thought person, you do not have the luxury of believing in duality. You don't get to call things good and evil. You get to live from what that quotation said, is that there is a God of love behind every contradiction, circumstance, pain, and struggle. And that God of love is active in every activity. We're here today talking about passion and purpose. Let's not lose sight of the fact that passio in Latin means suffering. And so that which is your passion is that which makes you suffer. Musicians, artists, there you go. See him shaking his head. He knows that drive to make music within you, that drive to produce a work of art, that drive to stand up here and speak, or, as I learned so early in my life, that drive to love God and serve God and be present to God and let God be present to you. It's a pain. And it's one that doesn't leave you, at least if you're doing it right. Thomas Merton in the book says, "It was a body of select men," and it could be women. It was a body of select men, vigorous, happy, steeped in the contemplative spirit, austere without being narrow, silent without being morose, prayerful and full of joy, journeying toward the providential work that God had destined for them from all eternity. And in that quote, you will see the passion and the purpose. Tamara, when she asked me to do this talk last night, asked me to look at a video. I'm sure she's listening. And she asked me this morning, she said, "What did you think of the video?" I thought it was so wonderful about blah, 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 blah. And I said, I hated it. But it was the jumping off point for this talk. Jump back to Unity for a second. The hot water that I got into was somebody, when I went for the talk back later, someone cornered me. And I actually never got to the table where the talk back was supposed to happen. And I finally had to break away with this message. What you would like to term evil is a personal opinion. And how arrogant do you have to be to ascribe your personal opinion to God? See, Ernest Holmes was brilliant when he said, evil is a human problem, not a cosmic one. We live in a universe filled, overflowing, and expanding with love. And that's the only way it is doing anything, is through love. We're in the midst of a pretty significant experience right now in British Columbia. There are thousands of our fellow citizens who have been told to leave their homes, or who have no home left to go back to. We'd be tempted to call that a great evil. And it is certainly suffering and pain. But if back of that is the God that we say we believe in, then love is present. Some people say that our greatest threat facing us is artificial intelligence. That was my thought too. No, I think the greatest threat facing us is human stupidity. It's time for a little bit of humility. It's time for us to look at what we have created that has cities surrounded by forests that are ready to go up in flames because of the temperature of the planet. Do you realize that the temperature in the Northwest Territories in May was 30 degrees? Hubris, my friends, is believing that we know how to do everything. When we live, in fact, in a time where we are burdened with the thought that I get to define happiness, wholeness, fairness, goodness. I get to define all these things because my opinion is the only one that counts. It's time for a bit of humility to realize that with this amazing intelligence that we have, this purpose which is at the core of who and what we are, which is to be God in expression, to be love lived out loud, to be, as Teresa of Avila would call it, the hands, the feet, the eyes of God. This wonderful purpose that we have used it to make bombs and kill each other. It's time for a bit of humility. And if you think that this God of love, this loving intelligence of which we are an expression, cares whether we survive, you're wrong. If after all of this is over, the only choices of survival are COVID or some fantastic expression of the dung beetle, so be it. The universe, God, that expression of love is not invested in humanity's survival. And to the looks of things, neither are we. Tamara, if you could put up the second slide. The fellows in this video were talking about minimalists and minimalism. and how wonderful it was that this guy had managed over time to take everything that he had and pack it into a small day pack and live out of that for 2 years. Pat yourself on the back because you're a minimalist. It's not how much you've got in the pack. It's what's in the pack. And so my question to you is, what's in your pack? The minimalist is someone who has made God all. See, I learned that from Thomas Merton. This book was written in 1948, I believe. New thought is no longer new. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Go on YouTube, you'll see it everywhere. It is time for us, as a teaching, to live up to what we really are. And that is a mystical awareness of the power, the presence, and the life of God in all things. And stop busying ourselves with self-help programs and relentless positive thinking. And start looking at life from the perspective of the minimalist who has packed his pack with the one and only thing that has value, and that is the presence of God as him or herself. And you, my friends, you're the perfect people to do it. Why? Because you are called to be the elders of the tribe. There are people who call themselves elders who are nothing but just old people. I am not one of them. An elder must have some wisdom and something to say that people want to listen to. Raymond Charles Barker was one of our great teachers. And one of his students once came to him after she had been in ministry for some time. And she finally said to him, "Oh, Dr. Barker, I'm so upset. Nobody's coming to the church to hear me." And he said, "Are you saying anything worth listening to?" And that's the point. How many people would canvass for the party of their choice? Think about it for a second. Say, for example, you really believed that the Conservative Party was the future of Canada. God help you. Anyway. If you believed that, would you knock on doors? If you believed that there was something going on that needed to be spread, would you knock on doors? Would you talk to people? Would you tell them, "Listen, you've got to know about this. This is really great. This is really wonderful." I had a conversation with Janet a few moments ago, and I said, "What's that row of residences there up on the hill?" And she said, "Oh, well, that's housing." I said, "Did any of you ever go knocking on those doors and telling people you're here?" If you haven't, it's time you did. Christians, unity among them, is going to tear down their building and build a 25-story housing tower above the new sanctuary. You're going to put the sanctuary on the main floor and 25 towers above. They're not idiots. They know where their constituency is. It's upstairs. I consulted with the Lutherans in Langford who were doing the same thing at one point. These people realize you have a voice. You have a seasoned heart. I had a busy weekend. My sister-in-law stayed with me on my sailboat for the weekend. She came over, I think, on Thursday, stayed over Friday night, stayed over Saturday night. And the reason why she was there was because my nephew flew out last night at midnight to start college in Boca Raton, Florida, on Monday morning. bottom line is, my sister-in-law had been away, and she had actually said goodbye to her son, her oldest boy, on the 30th of November, of July. And she was away in Europe with her daughter and so on and so on. She didn't expect to see him before he left. But he, at the last minute, was invited to a lacrosse tournament, and he ended up staying until the 19th. So she was home and got to see him off. And I love her. I love her. She is such a good mother. And she said to me this morning, or last night, she said, well, I had my little tearful moment as I put him on the plane. I said, yeah, I bet you did. And she said, yeah, I was glad I got to see him off. And the ladies out there, mothers out there, you know what I'm saying, right? And she said, well, you know, it's going to be a whole new life for him. And I said, yes, for you as well. That is the seasoning of your hearts that I'm talking about. You know how to let go. You had to learn. You know how to struggle. You had to learn. You know how to be on purpose. You had to learn. And now it's time to take that and give it to a world that needs it. Get out there. Don't think about how it's going to land. Say it. See what happens. Where you are is where God is. Great Catholic Saint Bonaventure said this: God is that whose center is, how did he say it now? Circumference is everywhere, and whose center is nowhere. Flip that around. I found God's center. Found it in myself. I find it in you. I see it in you. I know it's in you. That center, which is God, is who and what you are. It's your purpose. It's why you came here. It's what you have to give at this point in your life. And you've got to give it everywhere. Think of how many ways you can touch this world that is so much in need of your wisdom, of your compassion, of your care. We have tried to make of God a mystery to be solved, like an Agatha Christie novel. When in fact, the mystery that God is something that is to be revealed. And you are revealing it daily. And you could reveal it more. You can live bigger. You can live richer. You can be the light that shines in the darkness, that the darkness cannot hold back. We are not here, folks, to be happy. And that is the thing that I found so distasteful about the video that I saw. That people believed that their purpose on this planet was to be happy. How arrogant do you have to be to believe that nothing will ever enter your life that will make you unhappy? That no one will ever say anything to you that will offend you? That you will never have a moment's struggle and pain? And you, my friends, you know, having lived a life that had struggle, that had pain, and that still probably has some from time to time, that you are not here to be happy. You are here to be something else. We need to step out of religions that say that they have the answers. And we need to step into those places that do nothing else but give us questions. What is mine to do now? How can I touch the world today? How can I make a difference? How can I lessen the pain and increase the love? Questions that your body, mind, and heart are here for one reason only: to answer. I pride myself that I am part of a 1,500-year-old tradition of monasticism. I am one of those monks who is no longer in a monastery. But if you saw my little 32-foot sailboat, that's about as close to its monastic cell as you're going to get. Except it's mobile. But the bottom line is to be part of a tradition of the love of God. Of the love of God in me, as me, and expressing through me. To be part of that tradition, which in of itself is part of a 6,000-year-old tradition, is possibly one of the greatest riches of our civilization, of Western thought. Embrace it. Embrace it proudly and live it generously and lovingly. That's all I got. So ends the lesson, and so it is. Namaste.
I think I know what your purpose and passion is, Terry. And we're so grateful for it. So this is the time in the service where we acknowledge our gratitude for our loving community. As you may know, CSL White Rock is a not-for-profit, and as such, we depend on each other to support and grow our community. It's from a place of love and gratitude that each of us enter into the natural circulation of abundance that is the very pulse of the universe. And if you are willing, please place your hand on your heart and know a specific good for yourself and this center. And I believe Tamara will put up a slide. There we are. And if you can say with me, I give my heart to that which renews my faith in the perfection of my life. My giving supports the transformation of my consciousness and the unity of all life. And if, as we pass the basket here in person, there is a little piece of paper in there, which is a nice affirmation for you to take home today that you can take out. And there are a few ways you can support CSL White Rock through donating online, an e-transfer or by cheque. And I believe there's a slide with that information that Tamara will put up, or maybe even in the chat, correct? So if, Reverend Terry, if you and Liv would mind coming up here. There's a little bit more for
us to do.
For you to do here. I'll leave the notes here.
Okay.
And I will move out of the way.
And I have to give you the right quotation from Bonaventure. God is a circle whose circumference is nowhere and whose center is everywhere.
Yes. Nice.
Would you all please stand and join me in our closing affirmation? And you're going to speak this from your heart. I'm going to step away from the microphone. Something wonderful is happening in me right now.
Something wonderful is happening in me right now.
It's this thing called heart.
It's this thing called heart.
It's this thing called challenge.
It's this thing called challenge.
It's this thing called God.
It's this thing called God.
I know it.
I know it.
I love it.
I love it.
I feel it.
I feel it.
I express it.
I express it.
I am it.
I am it.
And so it is.
And so it is.